Hello, I'm Richard Proudman. You've joined us here at Bachmann, and I'm joined by David Parsons as we unveil our fantastic all-new Bachmann Branchline 00 scale Class 47 diesel locomotive. A seminal day for Bachmann, Dave.
It's a very good day and it's a very exciting day for all of us. Something we've had on the quiet for quite some time. And we've all been working very hard to produce this all-new model, where we've not only produced just a single Class 47, but we've produced most of the subclasses to go with it as well. It's been designed from the rails up. There's nothing old on it. Everything is brand spanking new. We have more options than ever before with this thing. Many new improvements, many new innovations, and it looks like it's going to be a great model.
I think it's fair to say this will be a new standard for British 00 scale diesel locomotives when they hit the shops in the next couple of months.
Yes, right? I think it'll certainly it'll set the benchmark for a mainline diesel BR diesel locomotive, and it nicely rounds off this year's trio of original BR diesel locomotives. We started with our Class 20, which was a great model, and then we've had our Class 24 in both the skinhead and head code variants. And now we've got our all-new Class 47 in all its subclasses as well. So it's an exciting year, especially for modellers of BR first generation diesel locomotives.
Certainly is. The selection in front of us is awe-inspiring as it is, but we're going to go into some of the details that the tooling caters for, so people can know what to look forward to.
That's right.
Over the coming months and years from these fantastic double
Yeah,
scale
well, a
models.
bit later on we'll do a virtual tour of the models and we'll go through all the different tooling variations that we've invested in. Not all are going to be available on the first run, but we've got lots and lots of models lined up for the coming years, and so it's going to be exciting times for BR diesel modelers.
Now, some people say, Dave, that we already make a Class 47 model, so what exactly do we see in front of us today?
Well, we have made Class 47 for a long time, and we launched that in 2007, and it evolved over the years. We brought out further subclasses. But what we see here today is a completely new model, all new, all singing and dancing, much higher spec, many more features and tooling options available to us. We've shelved the old model. It was starting to look a bit tired, and people expect more now, and we expect more of our models as well.
We can incorporate more features.
That's right. Technology is advanced, and the capabilities of our engineering department and our dedicated staff in China and Hong Kong have been able to can do new things now and can push things further. So we quite rightly wanted to do this class justice to modern standards. So using extensive original brush material from the original drawings, works drawings, engineering drawings, delivery diagrams, original brush documents, many site visits and such like. Our engineer Kevin Pedley has done a fine job in managing this project from start to finish, and our team of engineers in Hong Kong and in China have produced a wonderful set of tools and some incredible models with levels of detail and accuracy that we've not seen before here at Bachmann.
And it's delightful to see them now and unveil them to the public, because this project's been going on for a number of years. And I remember seeing the first sample and the features that had that we never even considered, I guess, on British outline models, which we'll obviously unveil shortly. But seeing those a year or two ago, it's been quite a build up to today, where we're now able to share this with you and
it's good.
Allow you to enjoy the models just like we have as they've developed.
It's been difficult to keep it quiet because it was something we've wanted to talk about and wanted to shout about. But this is the way we do things now. We do all the work in the background and then we'll come out with it all ready to show. It's in production as well. Yeah.
So should we look at some of the details of the models, starting with the specification of every model, and then we can look at the tooling variants, look at the additional features that haven't been seen before on air models, and really delve into what makes these so special.
Certainly, yes.
Whilst models of the Class 47 have been available in 00 scale from Bachmann Branchline for many years, our new model owes nothing to its predecessor and captures the look of these iconic locomotives better than ever before. Notably, improvements have been made to the buffer beam profile and the locomotive's characteristic face, whilst the bogies have really been brought to life using numerous parts to model the bogie frames, suspension and brake equipment in full detail. The conduit and pipe runs are then added as separate parts to complete this important area. Similarly, underframe pipework and conduits have been modelled in the fullest detail possible. Advanced etching procedures have been used for components like the fan grills, which resemble the interwoven wire mesh of the real grills, whilst metal handrails can be found aside each cab door and on the nose ends. The finest moulding techniques are used to create small details with the greatest of finesse, such as the lamp iron brackets and the long handrails beneath each cab windscreen, along with their integral support columns. There are discrete differences between the cant rail grills on either side at the number 2 end, faithfully recreated for the first time, whilst the wording Oleo is moulded onto the buffer tubes just as it is on the real buffers. The buffer heads themselves are of metal construction and are sprung, of course. With the Class 47s featuring prominent side windows, the features of the engine room that are visible through these windows are not overlooked, and this detail is modelled accurately on the chassis block, with appropriate decoration to be seen on the finished models. The interior detail of the cab is not forgotten either, with each cab including a wealth of details such as the driver's control desk, seats for the driver and second man, and the hot plate provided for crew convenience. The pillars which are visible through the cab side windows are present too. The wall between the cab and engine room is adorned with an engine room door, handbrake wheel and several pieces of equipment modelled in full relief. The cab interior is finished with a comprehensive level of decoration, which will vary between individual models dependent on the era and livery carried. Whilst our new models certainly look stunning, it is just as important that they deliver the performance and reliability that Bachmann products are renowned for, so let's see what makes this 47 tick. Our all-new model utilises a 5-pole twin-shaft motor, with twin flywheels to provide drive to both bogies and all axles. Electrical pickup is from all 12 wheels, while each axle runs in a pair of separately fitted metal bearings which slot into the die-cast bogie towers. As you would expect, the main chassis block is also of die-cast metal construction, and despite the added electronics and interior relief detail, this all-new model is an impressive 10% heavier than our previous Class 47, and therefore strong and smooth running can be assured thanks to this additional tractive weight. Incorporating no fewer than 6 circuit boards, the Bachmann Branchline Class 47 is fitted with directional lighting, plus cab lights, and, for the first time, engine room lighting, which really highlights the interior detail that has been added. Each lighting feature is controllable via separate DCC functions, or when used on analog control, the model has been configured for realistic operation, with directional lights illuminating when power is applied. The lighting at each end can also be turned on and off for analog use via the under-chassis switches. All models will be supplied with our new dual-fitted speaker system, pre-installed, using 2 different speakers to provide optimal sound reproduction. The Flux22 DCC decoder interface is employed as standard, with our Soundfitted and Soundfitted Deluxe versions pre-fitted with an ESU Locksound V5 DCC sound decoder, loaded with our own unique sound project which captures the character of the real locomotives and brings our model to life. When used on analog control, both Soundfitted and Soundfitted Deluxe models provide realistic sound effects when power is applied, including a convincing engine startup procedure.
So let's join Dave for a virtual tour of the tooling suite we have available for the Class 47. A myriad of options have been tooled. I know the investment for the company is over £1 million to bring this project to fruition, but a worthy investment, I'm sure, to bring the ultimate Class 47, we hope, to our customers and consumers. Each locomotive that we produce will be combining a number of different tooling options that David will explain to us to produce a replica faithful to the prototype on which it's based, depending on what era, what livery, the specifics of the locomotive that you saw in history will be represented on our models. So over to Dave and his virtual tour.
Thank you. Let's start with the cab, and first of all the headcoat panels. Our tooling allows different arrangements at either ends of the model, as often seen on the prototype. Naturally, we have made provision to model the original glazed headcoat boxes. These can be finished with 4-character headcoats or the dominoes that replace them. When the headcoat boxes were removed, these were plated over and fitted with 2 marker lights, or 2 sealed beam marker lights, both within a recess. Some locomotives were treated to flush ends, removing all traces of the original headcode boxes, and fitted with 2 sealed beam marker lights, and we've catered for this too. It can also be seen that the sealed beam marker lights and high intensity headlight lenses have been moulded with the prototypical vertical ribs. 2 types of windscreen wipers, original twin arm wipers and the later single arm wipers, can be fitted. Both are of etched brass construction, with the double arm being made using a 2-stage etching process, adding extra depth and realism to the part. In later life, some locomotives had their buffer beam cowling removed, and these so-called cut cab machines can also be modelled. Following on from this, there are 4 arrangements for the electric train heat equipment to accurately capture the various refurbished 47 subclasses that will be depicted. These are buffer beam mounted on locomotives with original buffer beam cowling, cab front mounted, again on locos with the original cowling, buffer beam mounted on cut cab versions, and finally cab front mounted on the cut cab locomotives. Class 47s were built in Loughborough at the Brush Falcon Works and in Crewe at the BR Works, and a telltale feature of the locomotive's provenance is the bracket cover at the top of the buffer beam. The twin bracket arrangement seen on Crewe machines is modelled, as is the single cover used by Brush. Additional directional lights were fitted later in life, and both high-intensity headlights and the round headlamps used by the Scottish region can be modelled. Again, the high-intensity headlight features the characteristic ribbed lenses seen on the prototype. Another prominent feature of some Scottish machines is the jumper cables fitted to allow multiple working, whilst provision has also been made for the TDM jumper cables and the multi-operational jumper sockets. Above the cab windscreen, the cab ventilators can be portrayed in their full original form or partially plated as seen in later years on some locomotives. The NRN aerials are another later addition and naturally is an option on the new Branchline tooling. The buffers are a good thing to draw attention to, especially with the lamp brackets correctly mounted to the buffer beams. The buffer tubes themselves are moulded with the word oleo, another faithful replication of the prototype. 2 types of buffer head are available: round, as originally fitted, or square, as seen on some of the locos still in use today. Moving around to the sides of the cab, and we have several options available in the cab door area, with flush sides below the door with no step, and with an additional kick plate fitted to the body side below the door, both with and without checker plate finish where appropriate. The cab door is flanked by metal handrails, and directly below are the bogie mounted steps. Both the open and plated corner options are available. Staying with the bogies, these now comprise numerous parts to incorporate full secondary suspension and brake components, a level of detail not previously seen in 00 scale. Further pipe work and cabling is then added separately, and we have no less than 3 types of speedo drives available: stone speedo drive, the electronic speedo drive, or the slow speed speedo drive. The wheels are authentically formed and feature the 4 small holes as seen on the prototype. Sandwiched between the bogies are the battery boxes, water tanks and fuel tanks, for which we have no less than 5 fuel and or water tank options available, with some additional parts that increase our options further. First are the 1,250 gallon water tanks. Our second option is the 1,200 gallon water tanks, which can be identified by the angled inner top edge in place of the right angle seen on the 1,250 gallon tank. The third option depicts locomotives with the water tanks removed. Locomotives with the original extended range fuel tanks can also be modelled, and for the fifth option we have the later extended range fuel tanks also. The 47-7 subclasses were fitted with prominent cooling pipes above the battery boxes, and these can be modelled too. In addition to these fairly obvious options, we have some more subtle features that are worth highlighting. These are the original water filler chutes that were located between the water tanks and the body sides and were required when the body side water filler access hatch was still in use to take water from the steam era watering facilities. These were later replaced with a more conventional filler valve mounted on top of the water tanks that would have been connected with a hose and perhaps a little more practical. Next we come to the roof. This is an area of the prototype locomotive that is little seen by the railway enthusiast, but regularly observed by the railway modeller due to the vastly different viewing angle, and so naturally our attention to detail does not waver in this area. The most obvious difference is at the number 1 end,
and the radiator grills. We have both the original 3-piece radiator grills and Cirque radiator grills. The stainless steel grills fitted to some of the class in recent years have also been included too. It's worth pointing out that the etched roof fan grills have been produced with a 2-stage etch, so they recreate the prototypical look of the grill cables weaving over and under one another, a lovely touch that I'm sure will be appreciated by our consumers. Moving towards the other end of the roof, and we come across the exhaust panels. We have the option for these to be either ribbed or plain. Next along we have the boiler ports, and here we have 7 different boiler roof detail combinations available. These are the original Spanner Mark III boiler port. This is easily distinguished by its rounded conical recess. The original Spanner Mark III boiler can also be modelled with a raised panel, or we can model a plated spanner boiler. There's also option for a plated spanner boiler with, yes you've guessed it, the raised panel. Our next type of boiler is the stone vapour boiler, which has a square open vent near to the number 2 cabin. Following on from this is the Clayton boiler, which has similar panels to the stone vapour boiler but has a circular recessed vent a little further back than the stone vapour vent. Then lastly, we have the plated boiler panels, as seen on those locomotives that have had their stone vapour and Clayton boilers removed. One thing to note here is the roof grille on the left or driver's side of the number 2 end has been modelled differently from the adjacent grille. On the prototype this grille was built to be removed, and although this subtlety is often overlooked, you can be sure it is captured on all our new models. Our Class 47s are supplied with a number of accessories, the fitting of which is of course illustrated in the instruction booklet, along with details about which parts might be fitted to suit your operating conditions and requirements. The accessories supplied and their decoration differs between models dependent on the prototype or subclass of the particular locomotive portrayed. These, we feel, are a nice extra, and many consumers enjoy the enhancement achieved by fitting such adornments.
So for the first time we'll be offering each of our new Class 47 locomotives in 3 different versions for each livery that's produced and each running number, etc. So starting off with the standard models, these of course incorporate a wealth of detail, high fidelity, accuracy to the prototype, and a new feature on these models, Dave, is the speaker system that's been fitted.
That's right, yes. So there's quite a few new innovations for this model that we're quite pleased about, excited about, and we want to talk about and announce to you. All of our models, as with all our previous new releases, they're all come with speakers fitted as standard. But first for us, which we're quite excited about, is all of our models will come with dual fitted speaker system, which gives a much greater range of sound and allowing to replicate the prototype more accurately.
So is that 2 speakers that are the same? Or?
No, we've got two different speakers. We have a Sugar Cube small speaker, and we also have the 28mm diameter speaker fitted as standard as well.
Great, and that's on every model?
Every single model. Every single
well.
Class 47, no matter what version you buy, will have the dual fitted speakers.
Great, and another new feature is obviously there's a lot of lighting effects built into the model, but I see we've got engine room lights as well.
That's right, yes. We've tooled into the chassis block quite a bit of depth and quite a bit of relief, which has been decorated prototypically. And into these spaces we've got fitted LEDs, which you can, with DCC control, you can turn these lights on and off, which really gives a lot of depth to the model, because you can then see down into the model, which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Especially turn the lights off in your room, and it really comes to life with these features.
Yeah, even in a room like this with the lights, because you normally have a dark void, with those lights turned on, you can really see into them. And it gives a nice depth to the model. It gives another perspective to it.
And obviously, there's directional lights at either end. Cab lights at either end.
Yes, cab lights and directional lights.
And these can all be controlled on DCC.
Yes, there's lots of controls on DCC. There's switches underneath the chassis to switch off the number 1 or number 2 end for those running on DC. But there's a lot of lighting features available to those using DCC.
Which is quite prototypical, because on analog control you get lights come on when power is applied, but obviously things like cab lights weren't generally used when the locomotive was running, so it's been configured for the most realistic scenarios, really, hasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's what we call the standard models. Sound fitted, obviously that's a term that people should be familiar with our products. So that's the next variant. Everything that we produce will be offered in sound fitted format, employing the dual fitted speaker system again.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, every single item, every single livery, every single model will be available in both the standard and the sound fitted. So there's no picking and choosing for people. People won't get upset that they want this one with or without sound. They have the option to buy it with or without sound with every model.
And so to be clear, our sound fitted models, they're pre-fitted with a DCC decoder.
That's correct.
I believe that's an ESU V5 lock sound decoder.
Yeah.
Loaded with our own unique sound project configured specifically for this model.
That's right. It's a bespoke sound file, only available with our models.
Yeah. So if you want to take a sound fitted model and run it on DCC, it's all ready to go for you. It's got the DCC decoder fitted already.
And of course they work on DC track as well.
They do.
Our sound files, as with all our models, work on a DC track.
I've actually seen one of these working on analog control with the decoder fitted. I noticed the lights even dim, the directional lights dim as the sound sequence starts up, just like on the real locomotives.
Even on DC?
Even on DC. You
That's good.
turn your controller on and the model goes through a startup sequence, and as on the real things, as the power is drawn to start the engine, the lights dim momentarily, and that's replicated.
It's a nice touch. That's great.
And again, it's something that's configured through our decoder and our sound project for the model, I would say. So really the best way to get everything out of the model is with our sound fitted version. Okay, it's all done for you, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant.
So the new trim level, which we are calling sound fitted deluxe, that's got even more features.
That's right. We've gone a step further and brought some more innovations to the table for this model, and therefore we have this third option again as sound fitted and standard. They're available to every single locomotive. The sound fitted deluxe.
You get everything that we've already given you in the standard or the sound fitted.
Yeah, so it's everything included on the sound fitted models, with the addition of something we're very pleased about, which is a first for British ready to run models, and that's the twin motorised working fans.
Wow.
The twin motorised fan system is all pre-programmed into the decoder. So the decoder that it's supplied with and fitted with has everything in it needs to work, and it will work on a random basis, so they're not on all the time. They will, as per the prototype, they will come on and off. We've done it randomly on the model. I think on the real thing they came on to cool down. Obviously these don't get too hot, so they don't need to cool down, so we've got this random switching on and off of the fans. That's of course accompanied with the sounds generated by the fans as well, which comes through the dual speaker system. So you have the fans moving and the sounds of the fans and the generation of the fans being used and all sorts. So it's a really exciting step forwards for us, and having seen them in operation, they're great. I believe this will work on a DC operated track as well.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing the first samples operating more than 12 months ago now. So to launch this feature is really quite exciting.
It's good, yeah. With DCC you can operate them as and when you want as well, so you can override the sort of the random nature of them, and you can turn them on and off as you wish. You can have them running all the time if you want, or you can just turn them off.
And that's fitted with a second motor, I believe.
Yeah, they're independently motorised. There's a small motor fitted, and that drives the fans directly.
So you get two motors for your money. What more could you ask for? Well, there is one more thing.
There is, yes. So specific to the sound fitted deluxe models, there's many Class 47 enthusiasts will know and will have seen the cab windscreens have been on the prototype have been treated with, I believe it's a very thin gold layer which is electrified to help demist the windows, but this gives a very sort of distinctive reflection which can look blue and pink and all sorts in different lights. And we've managed to replicate this with a special application that's been applied to the glazing, but it's only available on our sound fitted deluxe models. And we think it just brings a real sort of extra added realism to these models.
Yeah, really.
Something that we've not seen before. Or
Capture
done
with your
before.
eyes. You look at the model. It's like, oh yeah.
Yes, it looks good. It looks really good, and it really really replicates the prototype, faithfully.
That's a fantastic addition.
It is.
I think the fans, the tinting,
the working fans, the dual speakers,
system,
yes, the
it adds to the package that is the Bachmann Branchline S47.
The extra lighting, everything.
Yeah. It's really fantastic.
It does look great.
It's not just about the details you can see, it's got the features and functions that people have asked us for and are crying out for, really. And
I don't think we could have put more into it. We've gone all out.
It's a beauty.
Yeah. So we're sat here today with a selection of our EPs here in front of us, showing off all the fine details, as you would have seen in the virtual tour we did earlier. But we're really pleased to announce that the first production run is now complete and ready to ship. So I'll be very excited to see these in our warehouse soon. And there'll be a fine selection of models.
Yeah, so we'll be unveiling the first production run variants in our next British Railway announcements. That's the autumn 2021 edition. So tune in for that to see what we have in store for you and arriving in shops this autumn.